A dozen Senate Democrats have reached a $3.5 trillion infrastructure deal. This is the reconciliation version of the infrastructure deal, which is supposed to pass in the Senate with a simple majority, meaning that you wouldn't need to deal with the filibuster that requires 60 senators to vote in favor of it. Now, this is the bill that's supposed to have all of the provisions that the bipartisan group did not want in the bipartisan version of the bill. So all the good stuff is supposed to be included in this version of the bill. And to be quite honest, we don't have too many specific details about what's included. I do have some vague details to share with you, but for the purposes of this discussion, I think it's important to focus on the likelihood of this passing, even with a simple majority in the Senate, and also what the strategy is for Senate Democrats in getting this done. Now, as I mentioned, it's just 12 Senate Democrats who have reached a deal on this $3.5 trillion infrastructure plan. And it was not clear, this is important, it was not clear if all 50 lawmakers in the Democratic caucus, which includes centrists unafraid to break with their party, like Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, have signed off on the blueprint. And that's really the most important part of this story. Now, President Joe Biden met with a group of Senate Democrats today, urging them to support this bill. The so-called moderate Democrats, I prefer to call them corporate Democrats or just conservative Democrats, have not committed to approving or voting in favor of this bill. So that's an important part to focus on, because this legislation can include everything we've ever dreamed of. If the Senate Democrats don't have a strategy or plan in place to apply the necessary pressure to get the Joe Manchins of the Senate to vote in favor of it, it's not gonna pass. You literally need every single Democratic senator to approve it. Now, with that said, unfortunately, we've already gotten a bit of a statement from Senator Joe Manchin. He tweeted the following: "My statement on the Senate Budget Committee's $3.5 trillion infrastructure package. I know my Democratic colleagues on the Budget Committee have worked hard, and I look forward to reviewing their agreement. I'm also very interested in how this proposal is paid for and how it enables us to remain globally competitive. I will reserve any final judgment until I've had the opportunity to thoroughly evaluate the proposal." So that's not a good sign, because Joe Manchin is using the exact same talking points that he used in essentially serving as an obstacle in other Biden agendas, other parts of Biden's agenda, including the coronavirus relief package. Remember, it's always, how are we gonna pay for this? Is he really concerned about how they're gonna pay for it? Or is he providing various obstacles to ensure that his corporate donors are happy with his stalling and with his blocking of these types of bills? We'll see, but it doesn't look good with Joe Manchin as part of this equation, but he's not the only one. Obviously, Kyrsten Sinema is a problem. Chris Coons is another corporate Democrat in the Senate who could serve as a problem. As we all know, 8 Senate Democrats voted against a $15 an hour minimum wage. So right now, as it stands, there really isn't a foolproof agreement among Senate Democrats on this $3.5 trillion bill. Now, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, the liberal chairman of the Budget Committee, and Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, who's he's a corporate Democrat himself, and is a key moderate negotiating the details of this bipartisan framework, also confirmed their support for the agreement. In fact, why don't we go to this video of Senator Sanders announcing that they've reached this agreement. This was late last night. Let's hear what he had to say.
This is, in our view, a pivotal moment in American history. And for a very long time, the American people have seen the very rich getting richer and government developing policies which allow them to pay, in some cases, not a nickel in federal income taxes. They've seen corporations make huge profits. In some cases, they're not paying a nickel in taxes. And what this legislation says, among many, many other things, that those days are gone. The wealthy and large corporations are going to start paying their fair share of taxes so that we can protect the working families of this country.
But are they? Are they going to pay more in taxes? Because we do hear from some of these corporate Democrats who are kind of pumping the brakes in that regard. Warner, Senator Mark Warner, said the plan would be fully paid for, though Democrats did not offer specifics about how they plan to do so. Discussions of how to raise that money are expected to continue in the coming days. And that's really the question that Senator Joe Manchin is concerned about. The wealthy do not want to see an increase in their tax rates. Corporations do not want to see an increase in their tax rates. And really the only way to pay for this without implementing regressive taxes that harm lower income workers is to ensure that you raise taxes on the rich. So some of the things that have been floated so far: an increase in the capital gains tax rate, raise the taxes on inheritances, so estate taxes, also raise taxes on overseas profits, which I think is incredibly important, right? Because it not only provides revenue for the federal government to pay for this more robust reconciliation version of the infrastructure package, it also discourages corporations from shipping jobs abroad, right? It would be potentially more affordable for things to be manufactured here in the United States as opposed to other places. And also shift tax incentives away from fossil fuel companies and reward renewable energy companies with these tax incentives instead. So the climate action is certainly baked into this more robust version of the infrastructure bill. It also calls for an increase in what's covered under Medicare. So the dental and vision would be included. There are all sorts of wonderful parts of this infrastructure deal. But the question is, will it pass in the Senate? Again, you need every single Democrat to vote in favor of it. And then you need Vice President Kamala Harris to also break the tie in the Senate if we hopefully get there. And so one thing I also want to note is there is one specific senator that I'm going to call out, a Democratic senator, Robert Menendez, who is clear in wanting to protect very specific donors, and that's the pharmaceutical industry. Senator Robert Menendez of New Jersey, whose state is home to many big name pharmaceutical manufacturers, including Merck & Company and Johnson & Johnson, has objected to using the industry as a quote piggy bank, end quote, to fund other priorities. In fact, he says, we keep taking money from the pharmaceutical industry and then we never see the reduction in the cost of prescription drugs. How is that solving the problem? I'll let you guys decide whether or not that statement makes any sense at all. But Senator Menendez probably thinks that no one's paying attention and that he can say whatever he wants to protect his corporate donors and no one will ever punish him for it electorally. But just know that there are a handful of Democratic senators who will serve as a problem moving forward in regard to this infrastructure bill, and they should be known. Robert Menendez is certainly one of them. Now, a few other details I want to share with you in regard to what this bill includes. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that the resolution would call for an expansion of Medicare to provide money for dental, vision, and hearing benefits, incredibly important. It is also likely to extend a temporary provision in the president's pandemic relief law that greatly expands subsidies for Americans purchasing healthcare through the Affordable Care Act. One other thing that it does, which is also incredibly important, is it makes permanent the child tax credit that was implemented for 1 year in the Biden coronavirus relief package. Biden, working with Sanders, wants to make pre-kindergarten access universal for 2 years. Biden, working with Sanders, wants to make pre-kindergarten access universal and 2 years of community college free to all Americans. He should also cancel all federal student loan debt at a minimum. I mean, it's insane that he hasn't done that yet. It would make him a wildly popular president if he just did that alone. But of course, we don't want him to do just that alone. We want to get this package passed. And unfortunately, what we're seeing so far from the dozen Democrats who have reached this agreement for the $3.5 trillion infrastructure plan, they just haven't expressed any type of strategy. There might be some negotiating happening behind the scenes. Maybe carrots and sticks are being utilized behind the scenes. But so far, I personally don't feel very confident about this package passing, because you already have very public statements from corporate Democrats who are allegedly concerned about the cost or the pay-fors. No one was really that concerned about how much it would cost to cut taxes for the rich as part of Trump's tax cuts in 2017. That cost the federal government $2 trillion, nearly $2 trillion over the next 10 years. But no one was worried about that. They passed that bill through reconciliation, because when Republicans want something, they get it, and they'll stop at nothing to get what they want. I mean, I know it's a completely different situation, but you look at the state of Texas and how they're trying to pass incredibly restrictive voting laws there. And I mean, Governor Greg Abbott is ready and willing to arrest Democratic state lawmakers who fled the state in order to prevent the quorum necessary for a vote on that piece of legislation. Like, they'll stop at nothing to ensure that they get what they want. The question is, are Democratic senators who are in favor of this deal going to hold members of their own party accountable and apply the pressure necessary to ensure that they vote in favor of this? Joe Manchin's got super thin skin. All it took was Kamala Harris going to West Virginia and doing a few interviews in favor of the coronavirus relief package. And she didn't even name Joe Manchin during those interviews, but it was clear that she was rallying support for the coronavirus relief package, something that Senator Manchin was serving as an obstacle for in terms of its passage. And he was crying and whining about it because he doesn't like to be held accountable. So hold him accountable and don't stop until he agrees to vote in favor of the bill. And do the same with other corporate Democrat lawmakers who think they can get away with serving the best interests of their corporate donors as opposed to their constituents, who happen to find the human infrastructure component of Biden's agenda wildly popular. Upwards of 70% of Americans are in favor of those provisions. So get it done. You've got the public support. Now you got to play hardball.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.